Hi there beautiful souls, Avalon here, and I would like to do the oracle portion of my current working decks for the June-July period. So, excuse my appearance, I just dropped my daughter off at school and I got caught out in the rain. It is pouring, like torrential rain, and all I had was my umbrella. And so I've had to change my clothes and I'm a bit wet and disheveled. But that's okay, we're going with it. It's not a horrible inconvenience. I got caught in the rain. Hey, worst things happen. So I'm just going to clear off my space here because I'm unprepared. I sit down to do a video and I'm oddly unprepared. So the decks that I'm working with this June-July season, there are some old, some new, some trusty old favourites. And but first I've got an honourable mention. The honourable mention is the Fairy Tale Oracle by Lucy Cavendish, artwork by Jasmine Beckett-Griffith. This is a new deck by Blue Angel. This is an honourable mention because I have only just started working with it. I have been reading the guidebook, as some of you may know, because I actually recorded a little video of a portion of this guidebook which I thought was really interesting, called the I think it was The Benefit of Shadow in, what was it? The Benefit of Darkness in Fairy Tales. It was something along those lines. But it's a really, really beautiful deck. I'll just quickly flip through some of the images since I am talking about it, but I've really enjoyed the particular energy of this because it's a very dark deck. It is fairy tales, and Lucy Cavendish has chosen to pull from the darkness, from the lessons that the darkness and fairy tales bring, and also, you know, infusing some of the lighter aspects of fairy tales and those qualities. And the artwork is Jasmine Beckett-Griffith, and I happen to think that it is beautiful artwork, and I'm really loving, look at this one, that one's a great one, that's Tamlin Battle. And I'm really loving the particular energy of this particular oracle deck. The particular energy of this particular oracle deck. I sound like an ass right now. Let us move on. So that is the honourable mention. That is the newer oracle deck that I have. The next deck that I would like to show you is the Mermaid Oracle. Oracle of the Mermaids by Lucy Cavendish, and the artwork for this one is by Selena Finesh. This is an oldie, but a goldie. The Oracle of the Mermaids has to come out at least once a year for me. I happen to adore the artwork of Selena Finesh, and I happen to love how she has worked so beautifully in harmony with Lucy Cavendish's writing. And so I love this deck. It is a very dark deck, another very dark deck. Not in an obvious way. None of these are really obviously dark until you actually start getting deeply into the guidebooks and deeply into the readings, and you can feel that theme. It doesn't just scratch the surface. It's not just a pretty deck. It's a working deck. It's a workhorse of a deck. Like, it will take you on a journey. And that's what I love. That's what I love. I want to sit down and I want to be taken on a journey. I want to be taken on a journey of adventure. I want to be taken on a journey of shadow. I want to be taken on a journey of love, of light, of whimsy, whatever it is. I want to be taken on a journey. And if a deck can take me on a journey, then that to me is a good deck. So this is the Oracle of the Mermaids. An absolutely beautiful oracle deck. This is the backing of the deck. It's been out for a really long time now. I've owned it for a really long time now, but yet here it is on my reading table. I'll get through the oldies actually. I'll just go through the oldies. My Oracle of the Mermaid, by the way, sits under a little shell. It's the only one of my decks that doesn't sit under a stone. It sits under a shell. The next is the Oracle of the Dragon Fae. This is a Lucy Cavendish deck, and it's a multi-artist deck as well. So you will see artists like Jimmy Manton. This is a Jimmy Manton card, and I forget the names of the other artists. I think Selena Finesh is in this, although I can't be absolutely certain. I've reached for this particular deck, the Dragon Fae. I'm not really in tune with dragon energy or draconic energy, as many are, and so I just like to exercise that a little bit from time to time. This looks like Selena Finesh. Must be. Raven Phelan. This looks like Raven Phelan's artwork. I can't quite remember all the artists that contributed to this. I think there was 4 or 5. But I'm happy that I'm happy that I've got this beautiful deck. This is the backing of it. This is the newer backing. There is an older version of the backing that looks very different. I believe it has a pentacle on it or something to that effect. The magic of this deck is that it takes you into a world of magic. It is one of those decks that will take you into that space of magical worlds and other dimensions, in not necessarily an ascensionist kind of point of view. It's about parallel worlds, old methods, old styles, you know, old dragon energy, old legends, old folklore. It's just a beautiful deck, and it will take you on that beautiful little journey into these other worlds. And you know, that's another reason why this deck is so great, because it does take you on a journey. It takes you on an adventure. This is Tony Carmine Salerno's work from the looks of it. This is another Jimmy Manton. And the artwork is beautiful. The collection of artists that they chose to work on this deck has been great. The synergy amongst the artwork is pretty good. It's not so fragmented. Sometimes multi-artist decks can be really fragmented. I don't find that this deck is fragmented for that reason. The next oldie that I've chosen to go for is The Wild Wisdom of the Fairy Oracle. And this is a Lucy Cavendish and Selena Finnesh oracle, and a beautiful oracle at that. I decided to bring this one out because I was interested in reconnecting a little bit with Fae energy, and that's generally something that I like to do around the Litha period, because I do work rather seasonally. But I found that there was some synchronicities, and prior to me setting up my Yule table, I was having a conversation with some of my witchy friends, and we were talking about the Fae, and we were talking about what the Fae meant to each and every one of them. How were they personified to each and every one of them? Were they anthropomorphized? Were they not anthropomorphized? You know what did the Fae mean? And just having that conversation made me want to reach for this deck. And then of course I came back from that conversation, and I think we had a ritual. Might have had a ritual. And I came back, I'm like, okay, I'm zhuzhing it. I'm zhuzhing my space up, and I'm bringing this one out again. I really wanted to come out to play. This is beautiful imagery, and these are beautiful depictions of Fae. It is not my favourite Fae deck. I tend to love the Froud deck better, but there is something so beautiful and so magical about this deck that I have to pull it out every so often. The backing of the deck is a fairy star. I love the colours, the browns, the muted tones, and I love the diversity of message in this particular deck. For example, Gossamer Princess, communication, relationship, work to be done. And that's Gossamer Princess. This one here, once was innocent, knowledge means change. I just love the essence behind it. Fairy tales, letting go, detachment, moving on. And for that reason it finds its way to my table every so often. So that is the Wild Wisdom of the Fairy Oracle. These all have guidebooks, by the way. I can't find the guidebook for the Wild Wisdom of... Oh no, I do know where the guidebook for the Wild Wisdom of the Fairy... It's up there. It's the Hidden Realm that I can't find the guidebook for. Alright, let's move on to next deck here, which is the Rumi Tarot by Alana Fairchild, artwork by Rivoli. This is a relatively new deck. It's not a brand spanker, but it's a relatively new one. And it's a soulful, spiritual deck that I work with solely for myself. This is not something that I would read use to read for a client with. It's not something that I would use in that capacity. There are decks here that I just don't use in that capacity because I feel that they are more personal decks, and this is definitely one of them that I feel is a personal deck. Likewise is the Wild Kuan Yin to me. It's a very personal deck, and I wouldn't choose to use it with anyone else. The artwork is really fluid. It's moving. It's got this this captured movement in it, and for that reason it feels rather living and alive, and it feels very delicate and transient and changing. There is so much vivid colour in this deck, and it's a great deck for focal meditations. And so if I'm sitting on a subject, if a subject has come up, for instance, I might pull a tarot card or a multiple tarot cards, because I prefer to work with 3 cards as opposed to 1 card, at least at a minimum. And then I might pull this deck, and then that deck, this particular card, whatever card comes up out of this deck will generally be the medicine for my 3-card tarot reading. And that's how I tend to utilize it. On its own, I tend to pull 3 cards and just sit and gaze, and then journal and journal and journal without taking in any of the keywords, any of the artwork, because I want to lose myself in the artful process. And then I'll look to the keywords at the very end, and then I'll write the keywords down. What do those keywords mean for me? And then I'll go from there. And I could be there for hours if I do that, which is why when I do a 3-card reading with this particular deck, I lay them out, I start my journaling process, and they'll stay there for a couple of days until I finish that process, because I don't like to rush things, and I don't have a tremendous amount of time to journal about cards because I do have small children, and so I do things in stages, and I'm okay with that these days. It used to be a huge problem for me. I used to have to sit down and just finish it in one sitting, but children and many other life changes will help you to make another way, to find another way, and to become at peace with your options. But these are beautiful cards. Sacred Convergence. The keywords don't actually lend too much to a grand interpretation. If you're a beginner, it's not necessarily, I'm not saying that it wouldn't be a deck for you, but it's not necessarily a deck that you would find easy to read. The Impossible Made Possible. You need to be in a kind of poetic, philosophical mind frame, I find, for this one. Well, at least I need to. This is all relevant to me, personal to me, of course. The next deck that I am... I just want to mention this really quickly. I match lepidolite, purple lepidolite, with my Rumi Oracle, and I love this stone so much. I feel like I need another piece for myself. Once I match stones with decks, that's it. That's their stones forever. They don't change when they go back in the bag, in the box, or however it is that I choose to put them away in. They will go with that particular crystal, and I will never utilize that crystal again in my own personal practice other than for that deck. And lepidolite, this is one that I bought specifically for the Rumi. It's got these little flecks of mica, or I don't know, it sparkles beautifully, and it's got a little bit of a waxiness to it. The long and the short of it is, I love this stone, I love the energy of the stone, and I love to be able to hold it in my hand. And when I'm working with that deck, I just hold it in my hand, because like I was saying about that philosophical mind frame, I sit there and I ponder, and sometimes my eyes soften and the gaze expands and I'm just somewhere else. And that's okay, because I've got this stone to keep me sort of anchored to the moment. And where I go in that moment, in that little mid-flight, sometimes brings in, not sometimes, all the time, brings in these further insights into the cards. I allow my mind to rest. I go up to maybe source consciousness, whatever it is, wherever it is that my mind chooses to roam. Maybe a past experience, maybe a future experience, who knows. But it takes me on a journey, and I can usually bring back some wisdom for that particular situation, for that particular reading. And that's something that I just like to do for myself. It's my meditation, path working thing that I do. Now, the next deck that's sitting under a beautiful piece of forest jasper. Little egg-shaped forest jasper. And this was a gift from a beautiful friend of mine, and I adore it, and it's married with my Aradia, which is the next that I'm going to show you. This is Aradia, and this is by Stacey DeMarco, artwork by Jimmy Manton, and this is a smaller oracle deck in card numbers. Hang on, wait. I've got the box here. It doesn't actually state. Oh, 34 cards. Yeah, 34. As most of you know, there's usually around 45, 53. In a standard Luella, 45 I think is... 45 is that good number. Anyways, I just got sidetracked, sorry about that. But it does feel smaller. It's noticeably smaller if you are accustomed to working with Blue Angel decks and accustomed to getting a specific number of cards. It does feel smaller in quantity, but it still packs a punch, this particular deck. The backing of the deck is beautiful. It's just like an old style book. And this is all about Aradia, and they've pulled inspiration from Charles Godfrey Leland's Aradia, the Gospel of Witches, and my son's about to erupt. What's the matter, Daddy? Hello, my beautiful. Yeah, okay. Now, this is another deck that I don't necessarily utilise for clients, although I would be open to. It's just not one that I've reached for yet. I think during Samhain seasons, like Major Sabbaths, Beltane and Samhain, I would potentially utilise this. I definitely utilise it with my witchy friends, with my witchy sisters, and if I'm trekking out into the wilderness to do ritual with my girlfriends, then I will bring this deck, and it will generally have a little bit of a something there message for us, and we always giggle at the synchronicities and messages for this particular deck. So as a group working deck, I can highly recommend it, only because I have that experience with this particular deck, and it's, you know, and it's just gorgeous. It really enjoys being underneath the full moon. It is a deck that I find, and that's a strange statement in and of itself. I know that everything enjoys being under the full moon, well, most things at least, they enjoy being under the full moon, but this deck, for some reason, whether or not it's imagination or whether or not I'm seeing it, it tends to glow, it tends to sparkle a little bit more when you put this deck under the full moon. And that it's probably my wild imagination, but hey, that's okay. I'm an imaginative person, that's fine, I'm okay with that. The messages are very witchy. This is one for those of you who walk a more pagan witch-centric path. You will find it easier to use this deck. It's not specifically for the pagan witch. It's for everybody. This deck is for everybody. But I think that for those of you who study paganism and witchcraft and pagan philosophies and who are familiar with the stories of Aradia, then you know this will be a deck that you will find some kind of odd synergy with, and it's very funny how it happens, but it happens, and it's nice, and it takes you on a journey. And like I said, I want to be taken on a journey, but I have gone to some really, really hectic places with this. I've actually got a little bit of a tiny funny story. I had arrived at this beautiful river, and I was with a girlfriend of mine, and we saw this rock right in the middle of the river that we wanted to sit on to do our ritual, right? And so I'm wearing jeans, I have my bag that's not like a backpack, it's just a sling bag, and I'm thinking, how am I going to get across the river in my jeans, across the river, with it holding all my ritual paraphernalia. The bag hung really low, and this deck was in there, and I'm just like, oh my god. So long story short, it took me forever to climb over the rocks. The water ended up coming up over my knees, and I finally found my footing and managed to climb up on this very smooth rock, and then we set up our little ritual set up there on top of the rocks. and the rocks leaned, of course, so the cards started to lean, and I was like ever watchful. None of them fell in the water, and it was just funny. Every so often you'd see this card, you go, oh, okay, I'll pick you up. What's your message? And yeah, it was a really funny, beautiful moment. And they're the kinds of moments that sort of sink into my mind and that bond me with a deck. So the last deck that I'm going to show you is a new one. It is perhaps one of my newest, not as new as the Fairy Tale Oracle, but it is the Messenger Oracle by Sandra Kuntz. This deck came to me by way of Etsy. The recommendation for this deck came by way of Almoon513, my beautiful friend Racine, and I looked at it and I thought, wow, just wow. Can I get another wow? It's very animal centric. It has this totemic energy to it. It's like the animal is lost in a dreamscape. When you look at it, this animal looks like it's lost in a dreamscape. It looks removed, but still quite close to you. It's very, wow, I cannot describe this deck the way that I want to. I'm having a frustrated moment right now trying to describe this deck. But it's bare and it's primal and it's real, and whether or not you are interested in working with animal decks, whether or not you're interested in working with the concept of totem animals or shadow messenger totem, oh my god, I can't even speak. In the wonderful world of totem animals, there are a variety of totems that you can have. You can have your spirit animal, your main totem animal. You could have your messenger animal, your shadow animal. You could have your... There's a variety, and my mind is just not going to where it needs to go right now. But if you're interested in working with more shamanistic types of relationships with animals and the messages that specific animals can actually carry into your life, then this is the deck for you. It's very subtle, it's very beautiful, it's quite big, it's a perfect square, this deck. It's quite big. I don't have another deck that is shaped like it. This is one of my newer low scarabaeus. I got this low scarabaeus as a gift just the other day. So it is literally like, it's really odd shaped. It's a perfect square. I love it because it's a perfect square. They're quite big. The cardstock is not too bad. Now, I will say this, that upon the release of this particular deck, there were a few complaints about the quality and scratching and indentations. I have a perfect deck. I have not had a problem with my deck at all. The deck came in perfect working order. Look at that one. Alchemy. Just beautiful. And so I've really been enjoying working with this one, and I think this will be a deck that I use, you know, in the next season. I'm just not sure yet. Life is simple. The colour palette is beautiful. Some of these animals are very far north Queensland. The dragonfly, the frog, the butterfly, oh my gosh, the crow. We have so much bird energy up here. In my backyard alone, I see butterfly, frog, lizard, bird. I've not seen bear that I know of, but we do have koala bears. Just beautiful. There's that beautiful wolf. This one is the journey, and then the living your potential. It's a beautiful deck. The creative force. This has been a really warming sort of a deck. Holding it in your hands, it feels very solid. It feels very truthful and solid and real. And if you're ready to explore your relationship with animal medicines and things of that nature, then you will probably really enjoy that particular deck. And that basically closes up my working decks for the June-July period. And I'll be changing my setup around very, very soon once again, and I'm really looking forward to introducing some newer energies for Imbolc And some of these might stay and some of them might go, but I'm looking forward to the change. And I like to rotate my decks fairly regularly so that they all get used, otherwise they sit on my shelf. And that's not what it's about. So much love, guys, and many blessings. Let me leave you with an image. Ooh, the destiny of one. I will leave you with this image. Also, go in a bit closer. Look at that.